Was it Olaf Scholz's decision that our country's representative was not there?
Zapewne tak.
Yes, usually the hosts decide who they want to invite. The words of the head of Polish diplomacy confirmed the former Estonian president's thesis that the German chancellor was to personally block Poland's participation in the Berlin talks. But Radosław Sikorski is not making our country's absence a big deal.
Takie spotkania się...
Such meetings happen all the time. G7, G20 were not present at all of the forums. But no decisions were made there, so I wouldn't put so much emphasis on it. Donald Tusk promised that nobody would outwit him in the European Union. However, it seems that Germany, which has the most gain from Ukraine's post-war reconstruction, has decided to rip off Tusk, who in the past emphasized the importance of being at the conference table. At this political dinner, you are either at the table or on the menu. The rule of the current governing coalition also coincides with a noticeable change in the attitude of the United States towards Poland. Earlier, key U.S. officials met with Polish authorities frequently. Now, when White House representatives go to Ukraine, to which they travel through Polish territory, no such meetings occur. The visits of the Polish foreign minister in Washington, D.C. are being postponed, which means that the Americans do not treat these issues as a priority. The same applies to contacts at the level of the head of the Pentagon and the head of the Polish Ministry of Defense. Meetings are quite rare. Former Minister Błaszczak met with Lloyd Austin much more often than Prime Minister Kosiniak-Kamysz. It is bad that these relations with our main ally are less extensive. Poland should be participating in the talks, especially since it was Poland that took it upon itself to help Ukraine at the beginning of the war. Poland has taken in millions of Ukrainian refugees, and it is through Polish territory that all the military aid of the democratic world is being delivered to Ukraine. If it hadn't been for Poland's help at the very beginning, we don't know how events would have turned out and whether Kyiv would have been seized or not. We should be aware that the situation is different now, and we should take advantage of it, so that Poland's global position is appropriate to what we have worked for, and that is clearly not the case now, because it was Poland and Prime Minister Morawiecki who went so far as to visit Berlin to put pressure on Germany not to be indifferent to the war against Ukraine. I came here to the Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz, to shake the conscience of Germany so that it finally decides to adopt truly devastating sanctions. That is why Scholz has no moral right to leave out Poland in talks about peace and Ukraine, unless there are other forces at play besides the desire to do business. This could be a prelude to a diplomatic reset on a much larger scale, because President Biden was there. It also sends a message to the U.S. electorate that perhaps some sort of peace plan is around the corner, and this could be what helps Kamala Harris win the election. Just one question: why without Poland? Because as history has shown once before, when peace in Ukraine is discussed without our country, it ends tragically. This is what happened in 2014 and 2015. It all started with the 70th anniversary of the Allied landings in Normandy. Then, without the objection of the Polish president at the time, Bronisław Komorowski, Putin allegedly agreed to the Normandy format by blocking Poland's participation. It was this meeting that led to the so-called Minsk agreements, in which Poland was not present. This did not end the war in Ukraine, but gave Putin time to prepare for a full-scale war a few years later. The Minsk Agreement, I remind you, which included Ukraine in the company of precisely those countries outside our region, let's just say, was not a complete success. Radosław Sikorski now admits this. However, it was Radosław Sikorski who forced the Ukrainians protesting in the Euromaidan to sign the agreement in 2014. And it was Sikorski who, along with Tusk, pursued a reset policy with Russia that fit in with German interests with Moscow. When I criticized this policy on a regular basis right after the change of government, and Minister Sikorski tried to defend it, but he didn't say that he pursued an anti-Putin policy, that he was an enemy of Russia or blocked its expansion. He just said that this pro-Putin policy was wise, it was prudent, and it was good. Please, ladies and gentlemen, check the facts, because this is more necessary today than anything else. Otherwise, you will get fooled by this horrible propaganda. And the facts are that when the prime minister is Tusk, Poland is not at the world table, and the head of the Polish government at most does this. It seems that when talking about the fate of Europe and the world, Scholz does not need a helper.